Back today. I'm doing a very special and very different vlog than I've ever done before. Today I'm doing a Monumental Memories to Memorials vlog, and today I'm going to share memories of my experience with 9/11. At the time I was 7 months pregnant with my son, and I was having a very difficult pregnancy. I was put on bed rest, and my mother would come by and pick my daughter up and take her to school for me because my husband had to be at work very early and I couldn't drive, so she would take her and swing back by. She lived close to me, and I'll never forget, I was sitting on the couch. I was watching some random television on Sci-Fi Channel. I actually remember what I was watching. I was watching a show called Sightings. It was a show about the paranormal, kind of a weird little show, but I liked watching it. And my mom rushed into the house and started yelling at me to turn on the news, turn on the news. And I thought, well, what's going on? I turned on the news, and that's when life changed for me at the moment. And all I could think to myself was, what kind of world am I bringing my baby into? It was scary. It was something that I'd never experienced before, nor had the majority of us. We'd never been attacked on our own soil. We had never experienced true terror the way we were experiencing that day. It was very scary. Everything changed in a blink of an eye. Thousands of lives were lost that day. People became true heroes. Our country united for a time, and it's just, life is very different from that day. Life as we knew it changed immediately. My son will never know life without the rules and the restrictions that we have now because of this, and it's scary, I'm not gonna lie. But 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of going to Tunica, Mississippi, to the Fitzgerald Casino, and they had brought the Stephen Siller Tunnels to Towers 9/11 Memorial Exhibit. And I stood in line for a long time. It was very hot, and it was very, very powerful. Before we went in, a retired firefighter named Chris Edwards spoke, and I recorded him. So I'm going to play the video behind this. Now, it's very long. It's over 20 minutes long, but I really encourage you to listen to it. It's his first-hand account of what happened that day and the days following, and you will recognize some of the people that he rescued that day. And so I was going to record the exhibit itself, but when I walked in, I just couldn't. I could not do it. I felt like it was wrong to do it, so I chose not to. But if you ever get an opportunity to go to this exhibit, it's completely free. I really highly recommend you do it. The tour guides are retired fire department members from New York City that served on 9/11 and the days following. And without further ado, here we go.
Thank you all coming down today for the Stephen Siller 9/11 exhibit, Tunnels to Tower. It's so important for us to have an opportunity to come out here and see great Americans like yourself and have an opportunity to tell our stories to you. Some of you may never get a chance to go to New York. This is our opportunity to bring it to you. And it's so important that you bring your children down, because they are the future. They're the ones that have to carry the story on, because it's not being taught in school. Not being taught in school. There's a lot of things that aren't being taught in school. This is just some of them. The history of our country and what our country was all about is one of the things that aren't being taught. I lived about an hour and a half away from the Bronx, from my firehouse. I lived up next to West Point. I was about 20 minutes away from West Point. I had two sons that were in school. I had a doctor's appointment at about 11 o'clock that afternoon. I had gone through a series of knee surgeries on my left knee. I had 2 metal plates and 8 screws in my left knee. The New York City Fire Department said, Chris, there's no way you can come back. Go get a fishing pole and go retire, and we'll send you a disability check every single month. And I said, you don't understand. The love of the job is undescribable. So I went through 5 surgeries, 2 of the major reconstructive surgeries on my left knee, starting in the year of 2000. September 2000 was my first. I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks. Reconstructive surgery on the left knee. Was infected in the hospital. I get out of the hospital, and what they had to do is major bone work. They infectionate the bone. They put in. I'm walking around with a broken leg for over a month and a half. They go back in and operate again. Take the plates and screws out. Now I got to walk on a broken leg on a cane. Try to stimulate growth. The fire department says, Chris, you got to get another opinion in March of 2001. The year 2001 was one of the most tragic times in the New York City Fire Department before 9/11. There were over 5 firefighters that were killed in the year of 2001 before 9/11. 5. 3 of them were killed on Father's Day at a fire in a hardware store in Queens, where 3 New York City firefighters were killed on Father's Day. Each one of them had children. So I go through this other main operation in March of 2001. 2 metal plates, 8 screws, another infection in the hospital. I'm in for another 2.5 weeks. My goal of coming back to the fire department is even greater. I want to come back. Then all of a sudden, Father's Day fire happens. I want to come back even more. August 28, 2001, a young kid who worked in my firehouse, who was bouncing around and rotating, we consider rotating. He went to an A, B, and C house. And it was the different companies you work in. A house was really busy, B was medium, and the C was slow. Came to work in my house, which was an A company. He worked there for 3 months. Great kid, 29 years old, had a baby, and had a baby on the way, and he had a little son named Andrew. He goes back to Staten Island on August 28, 2001. Responds to a fire. He's bringing in hose into a fire, into an apartment. He's advancing a hose. He doesn't feel well. Walks outside, goes in the back of the truck, has a massive heart attack. Dies at 29 years old. And I work with him. Who was to know, almost 2 or 3 weeks later, September 11th happened. 9/11 happened. When 9/11 happened, I had 2 metal plates in my knee, my left knee, and nothing was going to stop me. Nothing. Because the love of the job is indescribable. I cannot tell you the love I have for the brothers that I work with. On 9/11, my 2 sons are in school. I make sure that both of them are safe. Both sons are safe. It's a shutdown. We all know how helpless we felt no matter where you were throughout the country. You know how helpless you felt out here, wherever you were. It was as helpless as we felt in our own backyard. I thought West Point might have been a target. After the North Tower was hit, I thought it was an accident at first. I've seen private jets fly along the Hudson River and go underneath the George Washington Bridge and take off down. I thought it was an accident. But as I turn around and go in the shower, I hear a second plane has just hit the South Tower. And right then and there, I knew that we were under attack. New York City was under attack. It's kind of crazy, but I prayed that I didn't know anybody in the building. And I prayed that I wouldn't know a firefighter that would die. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to keep myself safe because I would have went nuts. So the distance I kept was more important to get my kids in school and safe. I get in my car, I start driving down. September 11th was a day that they said grown man don't cry. Went right out the window. Right out the window. Some of the biggest, toughest guys I've ever worked with. We held one another and we cried on one another's shoulder. What used to be a handshake in the New York City Fire Department was a handshake and a hello, became a handshake and a hug. Things changed after 9/11. I end up going over, I get in my car, I start driving down, I gotta go to this doctor's appointment. It's on the way down to my firehouse. I pull over, go to the hospital, I run in. The North Tower's been attacked, South Tower's been attacked, the Pentagon's been attacked. Now I know our country's at war. As I go in, all of a sudden, there's a line of 100 people waiting to go into the hospital. didn't even dawn on me. I go by them, I see the doctor, I said, Doc, I gotta leave. I'm a New York City fireman, I gotta get out of here. He says, Mr. Redwoods, God bless you. Be safe. I run back out, that line is 200, 300 people long. And I go over to the woman, I said, what are you here for? She goes, we're here to donate blood to the victims of 9/11. On one of the worst days in the history of our lives, so many great people stepped up to help one another out. I say that for the kids because I want the kids to understand the bad was bad, but the good was great. That's the most important thing to never forget. Never forget the bad, but always remember that the things that happened after 9/11 and during 9/11, with firefighters and police officers, civilians and passengers on planes stepped up to save thousands and thousands of people's lives. Those are the things you focus on. Don't ever forget the bad. Don't ever forget who did this. And that's part of my opinion. The politically correct garbage that goes around our country now is going to come back to destroy us. If we don't call it for what it is. And that's what happens. The world is a much safer place. I tell that to all the kids because I want you to understand something. Things have changed. Sometimes it's tougher for us, but it's for the better. The bad guys can't get an opportunity to do as many things as they used to be able to. Those are the things you remember. So the good is the great. The bad was the bad, but don't ever forget it. All right? I ended up getting down to the firehouse. After I left the hospital, the woman saying she's giving out blood. People are giving out blood right after 9/11. I get down to my firehouse in the Bronx. When I get down to the Bronx, I go in. There were companies from all over the tri-state. Fire trucks from all over the tri-state came down to help us out. That's another thing when people came together. Later on, there's a computer readout of over 600 firefighters missing. I started looking at the names and I started seeing really good friends that were names were on that list. I made phone calls. And I never got a call back from any of them. Guys I called back, they all died on 9/11. In the firehouse, later on at night, 2 prison buses pull up from Rikers Island. Everybody know where Rikers Island is? Some of those vicious, hardened criminals in the country are in Rikers Island. And all of a sudden, about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, in front of my firehouse, 2 prison vans pull up. And all of a sudden, prisoners get out in jumpsuits and we're going, what the heck is going on? Correction officers get out of another truck. No guns, no weapons, no nothing. Prisoners don't have handcuffs, ankle bracelets, they don't have anything. And all of a sudden, the back doors of the bus open up and the prisoners start bringing out trays and trays and trays of food. Half-baked chickens to serve 100 firemen. Half-baked chickens, mashed potatoes, mixed vegetables, salad, homemade bread, juice. They come in and start setting tables up for us. On one of the worst days in the history of our lives, even some of the bad came over to help out. Things changed. Prisoners came in to serve us. Prisoners came in to serve us. Later on that evening, there was a company from 13 Engine, which is in Yonkers. It has nothing to do with New York. It was one of those companies that came down to help out, mutual aid. They get a run to respond down to the World Trade Center, and now it's at about 11:30 in the evening, 10:30, 11:30 in the evening, and that's how I got down there. I said, Chief, you need somebody to ride with you? He goes, Chris, I'm not familiar with Lower Manhattan. I could use it. I jump on a rig. Otherwise, there was no other way I could get down there. I had the 2 metal plates and 8 screws in my knee. I didn't know what to expect when I got down there. We get down there, the city that never sleeps. The closer you got down towards where the Trade Center was, the ground zero, all you seen were giant lights that went up into the sky and smoke billowing up from the fires that were below. And as the rig got closer, as we drove down, it got closer and closer. The white dust was all over everything. But the further you got down, closer to the World Trade Center, the thicker the powder was. The thicker it became. And it was one of the most surreal things to be down there and to walk in it. And to walk in it. And to realize that when the North and South Tower collapsed, everything was pulverized. Everything was pulverized. Over 1,600 remains right now that they haven't even identified. So in that dust was the spirits, right? Now we get down to a command center, which was right off of Church Street. We're over there at the command center. I knew the chief from the New York City Fire Department. I kept bugging him. Finally, about 1:30 in the morning, he says, "Chris, go take the radio and bring those guys over to the post office. Go up to the 3rd or 4th floor and start hitting pockets of fire in building number 7. Building number 7 was the last building to come down. Took the group of guys, we walked over. As we walked closer and closer to the post office, dust was thick. There were soldiers running with automatic rifles, running down with weapons. There was one of those armored trucks. They drove by. And you see the float, all the dust would float up in the sky. We got into the post office, it was like time froze. There was a half-eaten sandwich on a desk, and people just dropped and ran for their lives. Mail all over the floor. We go over and we start hitting pockets of fire. We relieve 54 engine of the knob, which is the nozzle, start hitting pockets of fire. As a matter of fact, a little story, the one guy I was with was a young kid who was this guy Richie Chismonti, and he was fighting me over the nozzle to relieve the company. And he's fighting with me. He goes, "I got it." I said, "You don't have it, Richie. I got it." He goes, "No, I got it, Chris." I said, I grabbed it from him and I said, "I got it." I said, "Let me tell you something, Richie. Your career is just starting. My career might come to an end." I took the knob, started hitting pockets of fire in building number 7. As the time went by, started hearing beep, 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 beep. And it sounded like a pond on a summer night with the little peepers going on. But what it was, as a New York City firefighter, we carry what we call a pass alarm on us. And if you're not moving for more than 15 seconds, the alarm goes off. So every single beep I heard was possibly the body of a New York City firefighter, trapped or killed. At that point, I took the radio, I went over to the chief from Yonkers. I said, "You can take that. I gotta go." Took the 2 guys with me from my firehouse, walked down the stairs. Everything is no electric, so you had to have flashlights. Walked down the stairs and walked over to the Trade Center. On the left-hand side, how many people have ever been down to the World Trade Center? Raise your hand. On the left-hand side was the Millennium Hotel. Across the street where the World Trade Center was. I walked around the corner of the post office and I see nothing. Eye level, nothing. 210-story buildings, down to nothing. There was a 7-story stairwell that was still standing up. That was in the middle. The spear was like a little tennis ball, crushed off to the side. That's what it looked like. We walked across the side, there was a chief in the middle of the street, a New York City Fire Department chief. I go, "Chief, what are you doing?" He goes, "There was a line of like 200 or 300 guys going all the way out to the end of the hall." I go, "Chief, what's going on out there?" He goes, "Chris, we just pulled one Port Authority cop out alive. A Spanish officer alive." He says, "We're working on getting another police officer out now. They've been trapped for over 22 hours and they survived the collapse of the South and North Tower." I said, "Chief, we got to get out there. We got to get out there." He goes, "Chris, how are you going to get out there? You got 2 metal plates and 8 screws in your left knee." I said, "Chief, you retired 4 months ago and you're standing in the street telling me I can't go out there?" Because you know what, Chris? Take the Stokes and bring the Stokes out. And when he comes out of the hole, put him in the Stokes and we'll carry him out. One of the guys go, "Chris, I'm not going out there. I'm going back up to the Bronx." Johnny Calvin. Going back up to the Bronx. He left. Me and the kid Richie Chismonti walk all the way out, 300 yards out to the middle of the hole, and we're handing tools down, and eventually they cut out John McLaughlin, a Port Authority cop. He got his body out in the Stokes, had a chance to talk to him, and I said to him, "You're going home. You're going home. And all he kept saying was, I want to see my wife and children. I want to see my wife and children. And I said, brother, you're going home. And we handed him out. And he went 200 or 300 yards all the way out to the middle, near the Millennium Hotel. They put him in an ambulance and they took him away. It was such a helpless feeling because I didn't know where to go. Right after he came out, I didn't know whether I could go back in and start digging. I didn't know whether I should go back up to my firehouse. I walk up about 3 or 4 blocks up. There's a firehouse on Duane Street, 7 and 1. 7 and 1. 7 engine, 1 truck. I walk over there. As I get over to that house, I see these guys with cameras walking around, following the brothers coming out of the hole, and guys coming in for the first tour. And these 2 guys are going around with cameras, and they're following these guys around, and I am fuming. I am fuming. Fuming. Because I think these guys are opportunists coming around videotaping firefighters at a moment of an emotional moment. And I want to, and thank God I didn't go rap one on them. Because what I ended up finding out, those are the 2 French brothers that did a documentary on 9/11. They were following a probie around. You've probably seen the video of them in the street when Flight 11 hits the North Tower. They're in the street with a Chief Viper, and all of a sudden you hear, hold, beep. Those are the 2 French brothers. They were actually inside the North Tower when the South Tower collapsed. They ran for their lives. Thank God I didn't hit one. But I didn't know. I didn't know. Okay. Thank God I didn't know. Later on, what I ended up doing, my company was relocated down there from the Bronx all the way down. The reason why, my captain had 2 of his sons that were missing, that were firefighters. Both of them were missing in the rubble. I didn't know it. When he seen me, he got mad. What are you doing down there, Edwards? I told you to stay up in the Bronx. I'm a free agent. I didn't tell him that out of respect. I got 2 metal plates and 8 screws in my name. I'm not telling him I'm free agent. I said, Cap, what do you want me to do, go home? And he says, you get back up to the Bronx. They get a run to the South Tower Wednesday afternoon. The South Tower's collapsed. They get a run for odor of smoke on the West Side Highway near the South Tower. There's nothing standing. It's somebody, and I only say one thing. There's only one way that I got down there, and that's the only way was getting on that rig. But there was only one way that anybody would call in a false alarm to the South Tower after the collapse on the next day. And the captain got in the rig, and I got in the rig behind him. He didn't even know I was in. We go all the way down around to the West Side Highway. When the rig stops, I expect the chauffeur to make a left-hand turn. It's a 1092, which is a false alarm. I expect the chauffeur to make a left-hand turn. I get out of the rig, makes a right-hand turn. And the captain sees me, and he starts screaming, Edwards, I told you to get back up in the Bronx. I turn around to him and I say, Cap, I'm on a mission. And I walked in, the West Side Highway, down on eye level. And the eye level was 86th floor. On the lower level, on the West Side Highway. 85 floors below. 85 floors below. I ended up spending 2.5 weeks in a hole. Later on, I found out why the captain was really mad. He was missing 2 sons that were trapped in the rubble. And both of them were found over at New Jersey Hospital. Both of them survived. Richie and Mike Borey. Both of them survived. I want to tell you, when John McGarkin came out, I had a 4-letter word that I carried with me forever. The 4-letter word was hope. When I have an opportunity to come around and meet everybody, the 4-letter word of hope comes right back to me. I cannot thank you enough for coming down to see the museum, the Tunnels to Tower, Stephen Siller Foundation. It's one of the greatest foundations. It's all about giving back. That's what we do. And that's what he did in his life, is give back. Stephen Siller, Tunnels to Tower, 9/11 exhibit. So I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Pat, Clancy, I'm going to bring you up to next. Tommy Lonigan's in the back. God bless you all. Thank you all so much for being patient and waiting. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for bringing the young kids. So God bless you all, folks. Thank you so much. Come on up.